Hello everybody, came across this video, Christian sent it to me, and I really like it. Obviously that person there put it out on Facebook, but when I press the video to see if I can go and ask if I can mirror it because it's that good, well I think it's that good, it doesn't go anywhere, and obviously this person here is just showing it, so I would very much like to thank this lady who made this video, and I really hope that she does not mind me putting it out on my channel, but it is a very, very amazing explanation. It is one I very much understand, because I started off a while ago with James when we started just looking at stuff a few years ago, when we suddenly noticed that everything was very off with the Victorian pictures and that nothing looked really right or real. And there seemed to be a lot of men dressed as women and all this stuff going on, and then we had the orphan children, and then we had maybe that the asylums were putting the people there and they were taking the children, and you know, when you look at the wars and how they get rid of the children the same sort of way, then you've got to tell a child your parents died. How would that child know? You know, the same things were going on, and then you sort of move on. And last week I think it was, I made a video about cameras. I'm not sure if it went on Sun and Moon or Unscrambled. It might have gone on both. But I noticed in there that, you know, okay, I was thinking, these great big cameras like the one on the screen here, you know, they can't be real, and you know, and then they were like these kind of cameras in the same age group as these kind of cameras, and some of them were quite big and boxy like, and they were different to the ones that came out, the smaller boxes is the second one's got. But I've been saying, because when you look at some of these photographs, I don't even know what to say to it, the more darker skinned people, I'll put it like that, they always look much wealthier and the pictures look much nicer. And then I sort of, in my mind, I kept thinking, it's got to be, I put that into the League of Gentlemen, because I think that they've been included with the poor Victorians, and so this is why you can't work anything out, because you think rich, poor, rich, you just can't work it out. But I think that might have been, and then I thought, well, obviously if they're putting that in that age group, then it had to be the 1700s. And we all kind of know now, those that have woken up, that they had some kind of electricity and everything in the 1700s, you know, so that's my thoughts, was that some of these pictures must have come from the 1700s. And then I've come across this video of this lady, I don't know who she is. Up there it says, if technology today is as advanced as it's ever been, then how were the photographs taken from the past of a higher resolution? That's what that person's put. And it's just, it does blow your, even though we must know that something was far more advanced before and has been destroyed, but when you suddenly like, so what, they had better resolution then, and they did, and then they didn't, and then it was more basic again, and then we've sort of, well, I don't know, but anyway, what it is we're going to listen to this video, and I really appreciate very much this lady's explanation and all the hard work she did in putting this video together. And yeah, thanks very much for watching.
19th century, jaw-dropping, high-resolution images, and there are tens of thousands of them. Would you believe this 19th century photograph is 3.2 meters wide and 1 meter high, and weighs in digitally at a whopping 3,000 megabytes. If you find this hard to believe, you wouldn't be alone. When the experts from Australia contacted UNESCO for World Heritage listing, the experts at UNESCO also didn't believe that a photograph of this size could possibly exist. The 19th century photos were discovered in Australia in 2013, and from what I can find were only released to the public in 2017. I have many images from the 19th century that are incredibly crisp and sharp. Some of the images are so crisp and sharp that one could think they were photographed this morning. The resolutions I have of some of these photographs are higher than that of this video recording. This image of Dresden is particularly interesting. The clarity is amazing, and we see covered wagons in the street. Civil War photos that look like they were photographed yesterday. And many, many photos of empty cities, also in seemingly such high definition. and from what I was ever taught or told should not have been possible in the 19th century. Upon researching this discovery in Australia, I was led to find more photographic collections, how they were done, and then I was able to follow the technique back to the 17th century and to 17th century video. In 2013, photographs of 19th century Australia were found in a backyard garden shed in Chatswood, Victoria, Australia. The collection is named after the man who commissioned the photographs. The Bernard Otto Holterman collection comprises 3,500 glass photographic negative plates. UNESCO was contacted about the two largest images, and as quoted by Margaret Riley, Curator of Research and Discovery, State Library of New South Wales, UNESCO did not believe that the photographic plates could possibly exist, and now 3 of these images have been recognised by UNESCO as the world's largest 19th century photographic negatives. So how big are they? Each of the 3,500 negatives are glass. All but 3 of the glass negatives are 8 millimeters thick and 1 meter high and 1 meter wide. 2 of the negatives are 1.3 meters in width, and the largest being a colossal 1.6 meters wide and weighing in at a whopping 30 kilos. So question, who is making glass that big and of such quality for photographic negatives in the 19th century? The largest photographic plate in the collection is the Sydney Harbour, and it comprises 2 plates at 1.6 meters each. The image created is 20,000 pixels long, weighing in at about 3 gigabytes, which is 3,000 megabytes. I gather this would be an uncompressed TIFF file. Let's get a comparison. My Nikon P900 camera has a maximum file resolution of 16 megapixels, which creates a maximum JPEG file size of about 7 megabytes. So a 2-image panorama would weigh in about 40 megabytes in a JPEG file. So in an uncompressed TIFF file we could see at least 90 megabytes. And here we have, as a flat fact, for all to see, a 19th century image at 3,000 megabytes. Holterman took some of the photographic plates on tour overseas, and his entries in photographic expositions won a bronze prize in Philadelphia in 1876 and then a silver in Paris in 1878. So obviously there were photographic competitions at the expositions, which is similar to today. So a question that arises is just what was the competition's photographic negatives like, especially if Holterman only won a silver and a bronze prize. Someone else won the gold. There is a lot more information to be gleaned in the Holterman story, his gold find, and the photographs of 19th century Australia that Holterman commissioned. But I will leave Holterman now. As I mentioned before, there are more collections of glass photographic negatives. One collection, which is currently being digitised by the National Film and Sound Archive of Australia, is some 10,000 glass plate slides. Another collection of note is 698 glass slides, which are dated around 1875 and include this image, which is a traffic jam in Melbourne. There's a lot of movement in this picture. As with many of the pictures from these collections, there is little or no ghosting from exposure issues. As much as being an Australian and liking to think that Australia just may be the colossal photographic capital of the 19th century, it is not. 99% of all 19th century photographs were glass plate negatives, so people took colossal photographs on colossal pieces of glass with colossal cameras. The camera on screen is an example of a colossal camera. The official narrative says that the glass plate negative remained in use until the 1920s or the 1930s, whichever one you read, until the Kodak celluloid plastics replaced the glass in photography. Yet my research showed this narrative to be false. Let's look at a few sizes down from the colossal camera and go to a giant camera. This camera is stated to be manufactured in 1930. It is a mahogany Hunter Penrose 20 by 24 inch process camera. So clearly this photographic process continued after the official narrative states. Here is the Queensland Government Cartography Department in Australia photographing maps with one of these Hunter Penrose cameras. In this image we see a very large glass plate being quality checked. Then we have some very large format camera examples a little later in time. Here is Margaret Burke White, Grant Williams, and I was unable to identify this gentleman. Glass was the most common medium for these photographic plates, but these clever people of the past also processed images onto tin. These were called tintype. Some of the tintype photography is easy to spot. The condition of the photographic tintype is obviously dependent upon the storage and care. This one has seen better days, but some of them, especially from the Civil War era, are in excellent condition. But the glass, on the other hand, is lasting centuries. So before I get to the next bit, there is a revival of this type of photography. The recipes are known, and there are detailed plans around to make one of these cameras for yourself. When I was a child, my parents and their friends had slide nights. My sister and I as children found these nights to be pretty boring. Plastic photographic slides were mounted on cardboard and put into a projector and shone on the screen. This is how these 19th century giant images were also seen. They were mounted and viewed through a 19th century projector. Let's see some examples. Oh, if you've been researching the 19th century mudflood and hidden history, you would have seen many images like this. Some you see with parts of the mounting visible. Sometimes the glass is cracked. So how long have the image slides been around? Well, the mid-19th century is stated as the official narrative, as the official creation of photography. These glass slides have been around a lot longer. Phantasmagoria was a form of horror theatre that used one or more backlighted glass slides to project frightening images, especially of ghosts. It was very popular in Europe from the late 18th century well into the 19th century. The dictionary meaning for video as a noun states 1. The recording, reproducing or broadcasting of moving visual images. I'm going to bypass the 18th century and go further back in time to the first broadcasting of moving visual images. 17th century Dutch scientist Christian Huygens is widely accepted by the mainstream narrative as the true inventor of this technology. This Dutch scientist is also given credit to discovering a great many things in history. I thought I'd just list a few here. Titan, explanation of Saturn's rings, centrifugal force, collision formula, Huygens Fresnel principle, wave theory, Huygens engine, which is a gunpowder engine, birefringence, and Huygens also invented the pendulum clock in 1656. He was a very, very busy man. I think his story needs a closer look at. In his writings, Christians initially referred to this technology as la lampe and la lantern, but in the last years of his life he used the then common term lanterna magica, and this is the term these images are known by today, the magic lantern. The earliest slides for magic lanterns consisted of hand-painted images on glass, projected by showmen telling stories about the images that were projected. I will leave you today with a short clip of Mr. Bob Snell, who has amassed a collection of some 12,000 magic lantern slides. It's an interesting little story, and what he says about the colour technique I thought was quite curious. Thanks for listening. Catch you next time.
Well, where to start? Slides under there, slides there, slides over there, slides in here. Oh, I found them all over the country as I traveled around and different antique collector shows and whatever. And this probably wouldn't impress anybody nowadays. However, you go back 100 and some odd years ago, and when you saw something like that on the screen, moving in color, everybody was, oh, ah. Usually you would start a show with one of these. And so it just, what they did back then was unbelievable. It's not always this messy, sometimes it's worse. I've got so many projects going, but I don't have time to get bored. I did all my coming attraction slides, and then I started doing my advertising slides. And then I got sidetracked on doing my slides from Joseph Boggs Beale, who was a artist back in Philadelphia. And he did the original artwork for, about at least 1,800 Magic Lantern slides. And I have the second largest collection of his slides in the country. And his artwork was on basically a 16 by 16 paper and watercolor. Then they were photographed down to the image to go, and then contact prints were made. And when they made these things, they didn't have all these special paints to stick onto glass, and how some of this stuff is stuck like that kaleidoscope for over 100 years. And a lot of these things were stored in garages, basements, barns, whatever, you know, in all kinds of conditions. And it's just amazing how they have managed to survive.